3 inches. That is the diameter of the hail that is possible near Wausau and Milwaukee, Wisconsin today and into Monday. 3-inch hail. Apple-sized. The kind of stone that does not chip glass, it breaks through it entirely. The kind that puts craters in the hoods of vehicles and leaves rooftops looking like they were hit with a sandblaster. If you have a vehicle outside near these areas today, move it to covered parking now. Not when you see the sky changing. Now. This week is going to be active from start to finish, and today is only the beginning. Let's walk through the current setup across the southern plains first, because a different severe weather story is already developing there simultaneously. A slight risk covers the Dallas-Fort Worth through southern Texas corridor right now. A dry line is set up across the plains, with moisture on the Gulf side and very dry air to the west. The forcing today is not ideal. Morning cloud cover and some earlier convection may limit how aggressively storms can develop this afternoon. The cap, the layer of warm air in the atmosphere that suppresses storm development until the afternoon heating really takes hold, may hold together longer than we'd like. But here is the critical window. Between 5 and 9 o'clock this evening, if that cap breaks, the environment across Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas becomes explosive. 2-plus-inch hail, 50 to 70 mile-per-hour winds, a strong tornado risk for the cells that organize before the line consolidates. Watch the afternoon closely if you're in this corridor. The threshold between a relatively quiet evening and a significant severe weather event today hinges on whether that cap gives way. Now, Monday. The setup sharpens considerably. A sharper dry line positions itself from Kansas City southward through North Texas and Wichita Falls. And on the northern end of this system, around Minneapolis, a warm frontal boundary will trigger supercells starting around 3 to 4 in the afternoon. These are not elevated or borderline storms. These are storms with access to the full instability of the warm sector, and they have access to very large hail potential. The hail near Wausau, Wisconsin on Monday could reach 3 inches, apple-sized, or described by some forecasters as teacup-sized, depending on the storm structure. 3-inch hail is genuinely rare. It is the kind of hailstone that ends up embedded in car hoods, punches through windshields, and damages anything made of glass or thin metal that is left exposed. This deserves specific attention for anyone in the Minneapolis, Milwaukee, and central Wisconsin corridor on Monday. The tornado threat on Monday is also real. A couple of strong tornadoes are possible as supercells initiate near Minneapolis and track toward the east and southeast before upscaling into clusters. And across the southern plains, from Oklahoma City down to Abilene, winds of 50 to 70 miles per hour and golf ball-sized hail will accompany the storms pushing through that corridor on Monday afternoon. And then Tuesday arrives. And Tuesday is the day that changes the conversation. The meteorological term for what Tuesday is setting up to be is a high-ceiling event. That phrase is worth unpacking. A high-ceiling severe weather event means the conditions in the atmosphere have virtually no upper limit on how intense the storms can become. The wind shear is not just sufficient, it is exceptional. The moisture is not just adequate, it is deep and concentrated. And the atmospheric energy available is well above what is needed to support violent rotating supercells. Discrete supercells are heavily favored on Tuesday. Not a score line from the start. Not a messy cluster of convection. Individual, organized, rotating thunderstorms, the kind that have a distinct structure, a persistent updraft, and the ability to maintain their rotation for hours while tracking across the landscape. The specific concern is what forecasters sometimes call a rogue rotating supercell, a storm that holds together as a discrete cell, even as the broader environment is trying to organize everything into a line. These storms are the ones that produce significant, long-track tornadoes. The initiation area on Tuesday is north of St. Louis and near the Wausau and Madison, Wisconsin corridor, starting around 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. From there, these storms will track towards central Michigan, Detroit, and Fort Wayne by the evening hours. And what begins as afternoon discrete supercells in the Midwest could become a very significant and widespread event by the time the system matures. A slight risk is officially issued for Tuesday, but there is a growing expectation among meteorologists tracking this setup that Tuesday will require an upgrade to an enhanced risk as the day approaches. An enhanced risk means the Storm Prediction Center has high confidence in widespread, significant severe weather. It means the kind of event where multiple tornadoes, extensive hail damage, and widespread wind damage all occur simultaneously across a large geographic area. If that upgrade comes, watch for it in the morning forecast on Monday or Tuesday. Take it as a direct signal to have your shelter plan finalized before noon. Chicago is on the margin of Tuesday's threat. Detroit is inside it. Fort Wayne, Indiana is inside it. Columbus, Ohio is watching closely. These are not remote rural areas. These are population centers with millions of people who may be caught off guard by a significant tornado threat appearing in their area in the middle of a work week afternoon. I want to say something specifically about the Detroit and southeastern Michigan corridor. When rotating supercells track through this part of the country, which does not happen on a classic plain-style severe weather day, they move through terrain that is more varied and somewhat less favorable for large, organized tornadoes than the open plains. But they remain capable of producing destructive, significant tornadoes. And they move through areas where fewer people have a well-practiced tornado response plan. Know your shelter location in your building before Tuesday. If you work in a high-rise, go to a lower interior floor. If you work in a trailer or temporary structure, identify the nearest permanent solid structure now. Now let's look further into the week, because Tuesday is not the end of this. Wednesday features widespread thunderstorms driven by an organized low-pressure system positioned over Omaha. This system will push storms from Wisconsin all the way southward to Houston. This is not a high-end tornado outbreak day like Tuesday. The primary threats on Wednesday are damaging winds and large hail across a very wide geographic area. But the coverage is enormous. Wisconsin to Houston is not a small storm footprint. Thursday shifts the focus to the Ohio Valley. Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, an isolated wind and hail threat as the broader system continues tracking east. Not the scariest day of the week, but not a day to be completely unconcerned. And then Friday, another significant severe weather threat setting up. This one targeting the Minneapolis through Oklahoma City corridor. All hazards again on the table. The pattern does not take a break. It keeps reloading. Saturday extends the Friday system's reach southward, pushing severe weather from the northern states all the way to the Gulf Coast and into the deep south. A nearly continuous line of storm activity from the upper Midwest to the Gulf on Saturday represents the kind of geographic coverage that affects tens of millions of people simultaneously. The only meaningful break in this entire pattern, the first day that looks genuinely quiet for most of the country, is Sunday and Monday of next week. 1 to 2 days of high pressure. Temperatures moderate, the atmosphere temporarily stabilizes, and then, based on what the long-range models are suggesting, the pattern begins loading up again. This is the new baseline for the next several weeks. Not unusual weather broken up by active days. Active weather broken up by brief quiet days. Severe weather is the default state right now. The quiet periods are the exceptions. What this means for preparedness is simple. If you live anywhere in the central or eastern United States, from the Gulf Coast to the Great Lakes, the next 2 weeks require a consistent level of awareness that does not exist in a normal spring. Keep your weather alerts active on your phone. Know your shelter location at home, at work, in your vehicle. Stay connected to the forecast every morning before you leave the house. The day that catches you completely off guard in a pattern like this is almost always a day that the forecast showed as significant hours in advance. Here is your clean timeline. Today, Dallas-Fort Worth through southern Texas, southern plains. Conditional cap break between 5 and 9 p.m. If cap breaks, 2-inch hail, 50 to 70 miles per hour winds, strong tornado risk. Watch the afternoon forecast. Today and Monday, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Wausau, Wisconsin corridor. Apple-sized 3-inch hail possible. Strong tornado threat from discrete supercells initiating near Minneapolis in the afternoon. Move vehicles to covered parking now. Monday, Kansas City to Wichita Falls, southern plains. Sharper dry line. Golf ball-sized hail, 50 to 70 miles per hour winds across Oklahoma City to Abilene corridor. Tuesday, north of St. Louis through Detroit and Fort Wayne. High ceiling event. Discrete rotating supercells. Possible enhanced risk upgrade. Significant tornado potential. Chicago on margin. Detroit, Fort Wayne, Michigan inside threat. Watch Monday's morning forecast for upgrade signal. Wednesday, Wisconsin to Houston. Widespread thunderstorms. Large hail and damaging winds. Omaha low driving broad storm coverage. Thursday, Ohio Valley. Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. Isolated wind and hail. Friday, Minneapolis to Oklahoma City. All hazards again. Another significant severe weather day. Saturday, Midwest to Gulf Coast. Widespread severe coverage from the northern states to the deep south. Sunday and Monday next week. First genuine quiet window. Use it to recover and prepare for the next active stretch. Stay connected every day. We'll see you in the next update.